Eclipsed Desires. Chapter 1. Unfamiliar Rejection.
I am Maya, and I've always been known as the most beautiful and strongest girl in any room I walk into. Confidence radiates from me, and I've never thought about dating anyone seriously. Men have always been nothing more than a fleeting distraction, a sacrifice for my lust. The only man I trust is Keiji. We've been friends for as long as I can remember. Every time I'm sad or need comfort, Keiji is there, unwavering in his support. Life took a turn for the better recently when I landed a new job. It was a position I had always wanted, one that involved taking care of handsome VIP customers. It was easy for me. My charm and beauty made luring big-money customers almost effortless. But with this newfound success came an old vice: my addiction to lust. One night, I decided to celebrate my new job. The party was a wild one, with drinks flowing and music blaring. The room was filled with laughter and the clinking of glasses. As the night wore on, I found myself getting more and more intoxicated. The alcohol blurred my thoughts, and before I knew it, I had lost consciousness. When I woke up, I found myself in the middle of a game I had started, a daring game of kisses. I dared everyone in the room to kiss me, pushing the boundaries of my own desires. Most of the men eagerly accepted the challenge, and I reveled in the attention. Then came Keiji's turn. I turned to him, my eyes hazy but my intent clear. I leaned in for the kiss, expecting him to follow the same pattern as everyone else. But to my astonishment, Keiji pulled away, his eyes filled with a mixture of confusion and discomfort.
No, Maya, I can't do this.
I was stunned. No one had ever rejected me before. I stood there, my confidence shaken, as the room seemed to close in around me. The playful atmosphere dissipated, replaced by an awkward silence. Keiji's rejection was like a cold splash of water, jolting me back to reality.
Chapter 2. Boundaries and Confusion.
With a heavy heart and a head still swimming from tonight's events, I decided to play my next card. Keiji, I'm too drunk to go home alone. Can you take me? Keiji, ever the gentleman, agreed without hesitation. Supporting me gently, he led me to his car and drove us to my place. The night air was cool, and the drive was quiet, filled with an unspoken tension. When we arrived at my house, I seized the moment. As soon as we stepped inside, I kissed him again. This time, there was a flicker of hesitation in his eyes, but I knew he wanted me. I told him to release his desires, to let go of the restraint he always held so tightly. He took off his clothes, revealing a body sculpted from years of hard work and dedication. I couldn't help but admire his physique, the way his muscles moved under his skin, the way he seemed both strong and gentle at the same time. He moved with a grace that took my breath away, and as he approached me, I felt a shiver of anticipation run down my spine. Keiji kissed me back, his lips soft yet insistent against mine. There was a gentleness to his touch, a careful consideration that made my heart ache. He cupped my face in his hands, his thumbs brushing over my cheeks as if memorizing every detail. His kisses trailed down my neck, each one sending sparks of warmth through me. We moved to the bedroom, and he laid me down on the bed with a tenderness that made my chest tighten. He climbed in beside me, his hands exploring my body with a reverence I had never experienced before. His touch was light, almost hesitant, as if he were afraid of breaking me. We made love softly, each movement slow and deliberate. Keiji's eyes never left mine, and in that moment, I felt truly seen. He kissed me deeply, his lips lingering on mine, his breath mingling with my own. His hands caressed my skin, leaving a trail of warmth wherever they touched. He moved within me with a rhythm that felt like a dance, a perfect harmony that made my heart race. Keiji was a gentleman in every action, his focus entirely on me. He whispered my name, his voice filled with an emotion that made my heart swell. He held me close, his body a comforting presence against mine. Every touch, every kiss, every whispered word made me feel cherished, something I had never felt with anyone else. I had never been loved like this before. It was as if Keiji was pouring his very soul into every touch, every kiss, and I couldn't help but respond in kind. We moved together, our bodies in perfect sync, a slow, sensual dance that left me breathless. The world outside ceased to exist. There was only Keiji and the way he made me feel. Afterward, I asked Keiji to stay the night, and he agreed. I fell asleep with him by my side, feeling a sense of peace I hadn't experienced in a long time. When I woke up, the smell of breakfast wafted through the air. I walked out to find Keiji cooking for me, a sight that made my heart flutter. I couldn't help but tease him. "I'd rather eat you," I said with a playful smile, walking over and taking off his shirt. His body was unbelievably good, and I couldn't get enough of looking at him. "It's a house rule that you don't wear shirts. Your figure is too good, and I like to watch it," I declared. He laughed softly but agreed to my playful rule. However, his demeanor shifted when I tried to push for more.
Maya, we can't let last night happen again.
I was taken aback. We had so much fun last night. Why would he push me away now? His rejection felt like a blow to my pride. No man had ever slept with me and then refused to do it again. Usually, it was my job to turn them down when they came back for more. "Are you unhappy?" I asked, trying to understand his sudden change.
We're friends, Maya.
"Let's be friends with benefits," I suggested, trying to keep things light. "I'm fine with that." But Keiji was adamant.
There's no way. I need to get back to my place and get ready for work.
I watched him go, a mix of confusion and frustration boiling inside me. Why was he so upset with me? I had seen plenty of friends sleep together without any issues. Yet, there was something about Keiji's refusal that left me feeling defeated and embarrassed. Pushing these thoughts aside, I decided to dismiss him from my mind and focus on my job. Work had always been my sanctuary, a place where I could control my surroundings and thrive. But as I stepped into the office, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that Keiji's rejection had stirred something deeper within me, something I wasn't ready to face.
Chapter 3. Professional Facades and Personal Turmoil.
I arrived at work, still trying to shake off the confusing feelings from my encounter with Keiji. My boss, Smith, approached me with his usual air of authority. He was an older man with a graying beard and a sharp business acumen. But his eyes always betrayed his true intentions, lingering on my chest every time we spoke. I knew he wanted me, but I also knew that his desire gave me leverage. As long as I hadn't slept with him, I could ask for anything.
"Maya, I need you to take care of a very important client. Jonathan is one of our biggest VIP customers. Make sure he signs the contract."
I nodded, understanding the implication. I had dealt with clients like Jonathan before. They were powerful, wealthy men who thought they could get whatever they wanted. And often they were right. I made an appointment with Jonathan at a luxury seaside hotel, a setting that would undoubtedly help close the deal. When we arrived at the hotel, I unbuttoned my shirt slightly, a subtle invitation that did not go unnoticed. Jonathan's eyes were glued to my breasts the entire time we talked. His gaze was a mix of lust and business, and I knew exactly how to handle him. As we discussed the terms of the contract, I leaned in closer, letting my body brush against his. His breathing grew heavier, and I rubbed myself against him just a little, teasing him with a promise of more. "If you sign this contract," I whispered, "you'll get more than just a look." His eyes lit up with excitement, and he quickly agreed, signing the contract without hesitation. Once the deal was done, we retired to the privacy of the hotel room. Jonathan was eager, almost desperate, as he undressed. He was a powerful man, but in this moment, he was entirely at my mercy. I took my time, letting him savor every touch, every kiss. His hands roamed over my body, his touch hungry and possessive. We made love with an intensity that left him breathless, but for me, it was just another transaction. Jonathan's hands were firm yet gentle, skilled in their movements. He knew exactly where to touch, how to kiss, making my body respond with a fervor I hadn't felt in a long time. His lips found my neck, tracing a path of fire down to my collarbone. Each kiss sent shivers down my spine, igniting a desire that consumed us both. I matched his intensity with my own, my hands exploring his muscular frame. I kissed him deeply, letting my tongue dance with his in a passionate rhythm. My fingers trailed down his chest, feeling the contours of his muscles, the steady beat of his heart. He groaned softly, his desire evident in every movement. We moved to the bed, our bodies intertwining in a heated embrace. Jonathan's touch was both commanding and tender, a perfect blend of dominance and care. He moved within me with a skill that left me breathless, each thrust calculated to bring maximum pleasure. Our moans filled the room, a symphony of lust and longing. Jonathan's eyes locked with mine, his gaze filled with a mix of admiration and desire. He whispered my name, his voice husky with need. Every touch, every kiss was deliberate, a testament to his experience and skill. We moved together in perfect harmony, our bodies attuned to each other's needs. As we reached the peak of our passion, Jonathan's grip tightened, pulling me closer. The world outside ceased to exist, replaced by the intensity of our connection. We climaxed together, our bodies shuddering in unison, a perfect release of pent-up desire. Afterward, I lay there, feeling a deep sense of unhappiness wash over me. I lay there, the sheets tangled around my legs, the scent of sex and sweat clinging to the air. A hollow ache grew in my chest, a familiar emptiness that even Jonathan's skilled touch couldn't fill. My mind drifted to Keiji, his gentle smile, the warmth in his eyes that always made me feel safe. I remembered the way he held me that night, the tenderness in his touch, the unspoken emotions in his gaze. A pang of longing shot through me, a yearning for something more than just physical pleasure. I reached for my phone, my fingers hovering over Keiji's name. Could I really call him? Would he even want to hear from me after what happened? Doubt gnawed at me. Maybe I was just using him as a distraction, a way to escape the emptiness that always seemed to follow my conquests. But the thought of his voice, his reassuring presence, was too tempting to resist. With a shaky breath, I pressed the call button. He arrived quickly, concern etched on his face.
Maya, is everything okay?
He asked, his voice laced with worry. The sight of him, his genuine concern, stirred a mix of emotions within me. Guilt, longing, and a desperate need for comfort. I wanted to feel something real, something beyond the fleeting pleasure I had just experienced. Take off your shirt, I said with a playful smirk. It's a house rule. No shirts allowed when you're with me. You've got a great body. Might as well show it off. As always, he gave me just that, nothing more. I could only look at him, standing there in tiny swimming trunks, his body a stark contrast to the luxurious surroundings. He went to the pool, swimming laps, seemingly oblivious to the romantic seaside atmosphere. I watched him, feeling a mix of irritation and longing. Why did he affect me this way?
Chapter 4. A Day by the Sea.
Inviting Keiji to play in the sea felt like the perfect way to lighten the mood. I changed into a sexy bikini that turned every head on the beach, every head except Keiji's. He smiled at me with that friendly closed-eye grin that I found so endearing. We spent the day splashing in the waves and laughing together. The sun beat down on our skin as we frolicked in the crystal-clear water, the salty spray clinging to our hair. Keiji playfully splashed me, his laughter echoing across the beach. I chased him through the waves, feeling a childlike joy bubbling up inside me. We built sandcastles, their intricate towers quickly crumbling under the relentless tide. As we lay on the warm sand, watching the clouds drift lazily across the sky, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't experienced in a long time. There was an ease between us, a sense of comfort that came from years of friendship. For the first time in a long time, I felt relaxed and genuinely happy, enjoying Keiji's company without any ulterior motives. As the sun began to set, we agreed to visit a beachside bar. Keiji was unsure about how to dress, admitting he rarely went out at night. I laughed and told him it was simple. Just wear a small pair of pants and forget about the shirt. After all, this was the beach. He hesitated at first, but my insistence won him over. I wore a tiny bikini, confident and comfortable in my skin. When we arrived at the bar, All eyes were on us. Keiji, with his sculpted body and genuine smile, instantly became the center of attention. Girls asked for his Instagram, and he handled the attention with his usual modesty. One girl, in particular, caught my eye. A cute, down-to-earth Japanese girl with bangs named Yuko. She was nervously glancing at Keiji, so I approached her. "Do you like Keiji?" I asked playfully. Yuko blushed and stammered, and I decided to play matchmaker. I took her over to Keiji, and they exchanged Instagrams. I felt a strange pang watching them, but I brushed it off. Throughout the evening, several men approached me, asking for my Instagram. One of them, Brian, was a musician performing at the bar. He was handsome and charming, but I refused him, thinking I only deserved VIP status, not a street singer. When the night ended, Keiji and I returned to the hotel. He went to take a shower and then emerged wearing a shirt. I had to remind him of our no-shirt rule, which made him laugh. Reluctantly, he took off his nightshirt. I couldn't resist teasing him, running my hand over his rock-hard abs. He didn't mind until my hand strayed lower. He gently raised my hand away, making it clear he wasn't interested in taking things further. I sighed, feeling a mix of frustration and confusion. Keiji spent the rest of the night talking to people on Instagram, mainly Yuko. He mentioned he was interested in her, and I pretended not to care, telling him they were a good match. But inside, my heart was in turmoil. Why did the idea of Keiji with someone else bother me so much? Feeling restless and a bit reckless, I impulsively called Brian and sent him the hotel address. I didn't know what I was doing, only that I needed a distraction from the confusing feelings swirling inside me. Brian arrived quickly, his guitar slung over his shoulder. He looked at me with a mixture of curiosity and desire.
"Hey, Maya, you called?"
I smiled, feeling a sense of power return. "Yes, I did. Come in." As Brian stepped into the room, I glanced over at Keiji. He was still engrossed in his conversation with Yuko, seemingly unaware of the turmoil inside me. I knew I was playing a dangerous game, but I couldn't help myself. The lines between desire, friendship, and something deeper were becoming increasingly blurred, and I didn't know how to navigate the storm of emotions that threatened to overwhelm me.
Chapter 5. Crossing Boundaries.
The moment Brian stepped into the room, I acted on impulse. I grabbed him by the shirt and pulled him into a deep, passionate kiss. His lips were eager, responding with a fervor that matched my own. Our hands roamed each other's bodies as the kiss intensified, a desperate need driving us both. Brian's hands were skilled, exploring my curves with a musician's finesse. He lifted me effortlessly, and I wrapped my legs around his waist as he carried me to the bed. We fell onto the mattress, our bodies entwined. The heat between us was palpable, our movements urgent and hungry. He undressed me slowly, his eyes filled with desire. His touch was both rough and tender, knowing exactly where to linger. I responded in kind, my fingers tracing the lines of his toned body, igniting a fire in both of us. Our clothes were soon discarded, and we were lost in the intensity of our passion. Brian was relentless, his hands and mouth everywhere at once. His fingers played me like an instrument, eliciting moans of pleasure that filled the room. I arched against him, matching his rhythm with my own. We moved together in a dance of lust, each thrust bringing us closer to the edge. I was riding him with abandon, our bodies slick with sweat, when I heard the door to the bedroom open. Keiji stood there, his face a mask of shock and embarrassment. Brian noticed him too and with a mischievous grin, asked if Keiji wanted to join. I extended an invitation, my voice sultry. "Come on, Keiji. Join us." Keiji's face turned crimson. He quickly mumbled an excuse and retreated back into the bedroom, closing the door behind him. The rejection stung, but I pushed the feeling aside, focusing on Brian and the raw pleasure of the moment. Brian, unfazed by Keiji's departure, intensified his efforts. He flipped me over, taking control, his movements rough and urgent. His hunger was insatiable, his desire clear in every thrust and touch. I rode the waves of pleasure, my body responding to his every command. We reached our peak together, a climax that left us both breathless and spent. Afterward, I lay there, my body still tingling from the intensity. Brian looked at me with a hopeful smile.
Will there be a next time?
I got up and walked to the door, opening it with a cool, detached demeanor. Good night, Brian. He looked disappointed as I closed the door in his face. The high from our encounter quickly faded, replaced by a hollow feeling. I walked into the bedroom and saw Keiji lying in bed, headphones on, listening to music. He was pretending to be asleep, but I could tell he was awake. His shoulders were tense, his breathing uneven. I sat on the edge of the bed, feeling a wave of frustration and confusion. Why did Keiji's rejection bother me so much? Why did I want him so badly when he kept pushing me away? My mind was a whirlwind of emotions I couldn't untangle. I lay down beside Keiji, careful not to disturb him. The rhythmic rise and fall of his chest was a stark contrast to the turmoil raging within me. As I stared at the ceiling, the events of the night replayed in my mind like a haunting melody. Brian's touch, his passion, had ignited a fire within me, but it was a fleeting flame, quickly extinguished by the cold reality of my feelings for Keiji. Why did his rejection cut so deep? Why did the sight of him with Yuko twist my insides with a jealousy I had never known? Was it the challenge he presented, the one man who didn't fall at my feet? Or was it something more, something deeper that I had been too afraid to acknowledge? The truth, as much as I tried to deny it, was becoming increasingly clear. I wanted Keiji. Not just his body, but his mind, his heart, his soul. I wanted the way he made me feel. Seen, cherished, valued. It was a terrifying realization, one that threatened to shatter the carefully constructed walls I had built around my heart. Tears welled up in my eyes, hot and stinging. I had always prided myself on my control, my ability to use men for my own pleasure without getting attached. But Keiji had broken through my defenses, exposing a vulnerability I had never known existed. As I drifted off to sleep, a single thought echoed through my mind. I was falling for Keiji, and I didn't know how to stop it.
Chapter 6. Torn Between Desires.
Morning came, and Keiji acted like the previous night had never happened. He smiled and made small talk, pretending everything was normal. But deep down, I sensed he was angry at me. I wanted to reach out, to apologize, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. We parted ways, each returning to our lives, the unspoken tension lingering between us. Days turned into weeks, and I immersed myself in work. I closed deals with numerous VIP clients, using my usual methods. Smith was pleased and rewarded me with several brand name bags. His approval a temporary balm for the emptiness I felt. But no matter how successful I was, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. Keiji's absence from my life was a constant ache. One day, I was assigned to close a deal with Will, the owner of a famous restaurant in town. Will was a charming older man, confident and suave. Our business negotiations quickly turned personal. He kissed me passionately, his hands roaming freely. I allowed it, knowing it would help secure the deal. Just as things were heating up, Yuko walked into the shop. Will introduced her as his daughter, and I was stunned. I quickly suggested that we continue our negotiations somewhere more private, like a hotel. Will agreed, and we headed there. At the hotel, our passion reignited. Will was eager and experienced, his touch confident and knowing. We undressed each other hurriedly, our clothes falling to the floor in a heap. His hands explored my body with practiced ease, and I responded with equal fervor. Will's kisses were intense, his lips trailing down my neck and shoulders. His touch sent shivers through me, igniting a fire that consumed us both. We moved to the bed, our bodies entwined in a dance of lust and need. He entered me with a deep, commanding thrust, and I gasped, wrapping my legs around him, pulling him closer. Our movements were synchronized, a rhythm that built and crescendoed with each passing moment. Will's hands gripped my hips, guiding me as we moved together. His breath was hot against my ear, his voice a low growl as he whispered my name. The intensity of our connection pushed us both to the edge, and we climaxed together, our bodies trembling with release. Afterward, we lay there, catching our breath. Will looked at me with a satisfied smile.
You're quite the negotiator, Maya.
I smiled back, feeling a mix of satisfaction and emptiness. Thank you, Will. I aim to please. He chuckled and kissed me again, then suggested we go to his restaurant for dinner. I agreed, hoping the meal would distract me from the gnawing feeling inside. When we arrived at the restaurant, I was taken aback to see Keiji passionately kissing Yuko, their faces illuminated by the warm glow of candlelight. They were sitting close, their hands intertwined on the table. Keiji was leaning in, his lips brushing against Yuko's cheek, a tender smile playing on his lips. The sight of them, so intimate, so connected, sent a jolt of pain through my chest. My breath hitched, and I felt a sudden urge to turn and run. But I forced myself to remain composed, plastering a smile on my face as I followed Will to our table. I sat down, my heart pounding in my chest, my eyes drawn back to Keiji and Yuko like a moth to a flame. They were laughing now, their heads tilted towards each other, their bodies radiating a warmth that excluded everyone else in the room. A wave of jealousy washed over me, a bitter taste rising in my throat. I had never felt this way before, this intense mix of anger, hurt, and longing. I wanted to look away, to pretend I didn't care, but I couldn't. I was trapped in a silent torment, my eyes glued to the couple that had stolen my heart. They were sitting at a corner table, completely absorbed in each other. A surge of jealousy and hurt washed over me. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Keiji and Yuko looked so happy, so connected. I forced a smile and turned back to Will, trying to focus on him and our dinner. But my mind kept drifting back to Keiji and Yuko. The image of them together burned into my memory. Each glance at their table felt like a dagger to my heart. Will noticed my distraction and frowned.
Is everything okay, Maya?
I forced another smile, pushing down the jealousy and pain. Yes, everything is fine. Just a bit tired from the day. He nodded, accepting my explanation, and continued talking about business. But I couldn't concentrate. My mind was consumed with thoughts of Keiji, and the realization that I wanted him more than I had ever admitted to myself. The evening dragged on, each moment a struggle to maintain my composure. When dinner finally ended, Will drove me back to home. I thanked him and kissed him good night, but my heart wasn't in it. The drive home was a blur. Will's words faded into the background as my mind replayed the scene at the restaurant. Keiji and Yuko, their laughter echoing in my ears, their happiness a stark contrast to the emptiness I felt inside. As soon as Will dropped me off, I rushed inside and locked the door behind me. Leaning against the cool wood, I let out a shaky breath, the tears I had been holding back finally spilling over. Why did it hurt so much? Why couldn't I just be happy for Keiji? He deserved happiness, didn't he? But the thought of him with someone else, someone so sweet and innocent, filled me with a rage I couldn't explain. Was it jealousy? Or was it something deeper? A realization that I had let the one person who truly mattered slip through my fingers? I had always been so confident, so sure of myself. But now, faced with the prospect of losing Keiji, I felt lost and alone. I sank to the floor, my knees pulled up to my chest, my sobs echoing through the empty house. The pain was overwhelming, a physical ache that radiated through my entire body. I had never felt so vulnerable, so exposed. In that moment, I realized the truth I had been trying to deny. I loved Keiji. Not just as a friend but as a man, a lover, a partner. I loved his kindness, his gentle spirit, the way he made me feel safe and cherished. And now it was too late.
Chapter 7. The Mask We Wear.
I came back home, the taste of Will's kiss still lingering on my lips, a bitter reminder of the charade I had just played. I lay on the bed, the same bed where Keiji and I had shared a night of passion, now cold and empty. The memories of his touch, his scent, his whispered words, haunted me, a cruel reminder of what I had lost. I reached for my phone, my fingers trembling as I clicked on Keiji's Instagram. There it was, the picture that had been tormenting me all day. Keiji and Yuko, their faces glowing with happiness, their arms wrapped around each other. A pang of jealousy shot through me, a sharp, burning pain that I couldn't ignore. Why did it hurt so much to see him with her? Why couldn't I just be happy for him? I knew he deserved happiness, but the thought of him finding it with someone else, someone so sweet and innocent, twisted my insides with a rage I couldn't control. I threw my phone across the room, the sound of it hitting the wall a small explosion of my pent-up frustration. I buried my face in my hands, hot tears streaming down my cheeks. I had never felt so lost, so alone. In a moment of desperation, I called Will and decided to do something reckless. The next day, I went to Will's restaurant. The atmosphere was bustling, the air filled with delicious aromas. I sat at a table, waiting for what was to come. Soon, Yuko and Keiji walked in and took a seat opposite each other. The sight of them together made my heart ache. Will approached, introducing me to everyone.
This is Maya, my girlfriend.
It's great that my father has found someone, and I'm glad you're friends with Keiji.
Keiji, however, was stunned. His eyes searched mine, confusion and hurt evident in his gaze. He knew I had no real feelings for Will and couldn't understand why I was doing this. I put on my best shocked face when I discovered Keiji and Yuko were dating. At the dining table, I watched as Keiji and Yuko cared for each other, their affection clear. It tore at me, but I forced myself to act like I was in love with Will. After the meal, Keiji pulled me aside.
What are you doing, Maya?
I'm just here to have dinner with my boyfriend and his daughter.
We've been friends for a long time. I know you don't love Will. Why are you doing this?
How can you know my heart? You don't know anything. Without waiting for a response, I turned and walked away, leaving Keiji standing there, his expression a mix of anger and pain. As I walked out of the restaurant, my heart felt heavy. I had hoped to provoke a reaction from Keiji, to make him see how much he meant to me. But instead, I had only succeeded in pushing him further away. The mask I wore, pretending to be in love with Will, was suffocating me.
Chapter 8. Unveiling the Truth.
Not long after I arrived home, Keiji showed up. His expression was a mixture of anger and determination.
Maya, stop whatever you're doing.
Keiji, remember, no shirts in this house, I said with a forced smile. But he wasn't amused.
This isn't the time to joke. You need to break up with Will.
Why should I? Will is an important customer of my company. Dating him can only bring good things.
If you truly loved Will, I wouldn't have a problem. But you don't. You're doing this to tease me.
Tease you? Why would I do that?
Because you love me.
Why do you think you're so important? In response, Keiji took off his shirt and pants, revealing his perfectly sculpted body. He pulled me in for a kiss, his lips urgent against mine.
I'll prove you like me.
He murmured against my skin. He stripped off my clothes, his hands rough but eager. We made love fiercely, our bodies crashing together in a whirlwind of passion and need. Each thrust, each kiss, was an unspoken declaration of our tangled emotions. We couldn't get enough of each other, our desire insatiable. Over and over, we gave in to our lust, losing ourselves in the intensity of the moment. The bed became a battlefield of passion, sheets tangled and sweat-slicked bodies writhing together. Keiji's hands gripped my hips, guiding me as we moved in perfect sync. His mouth claimed mine, our kisses desperate and hungry. The world outside ceased to exist. It was just the two of us, our connection undeniable and unbreakable. As dawn broke, we finally collapsed, exhausted but sated. I fell asleep beside him, feeling a mixture of triumph and fear. When I woke up in the afternoon, I found Keiji still asleep. A mischievous smile played on my lips as I moved down his body, taking him into my mouth. He stirred, groaning with pleasure as I worked him with my tongue and lips, my hands teasing and caressing. He woke up fully, his eyes dark with desire. We made love in the bathroom, the shower's hot water cascading over us. Keiji pressed me against the cool tiles, our bodies slick and slippery. His movements were slow and deliberate, each thrust driving me closer to the edge. The steam filled the room, mingling with our ragged breaths and moans of pleasure. Afterward, Keiji looked at me with a mix of satisfaction and challenge.
I've proved how infatuated you are with me. Now, break up with Will.
Infatuated? Is that all I am to you? A passing fling to prove a point. My voice trembled with barely suppressed rage. You think you can use me, discard me, and then walk away without consequences? My mind raced, a whirlwind of emotions fueling my anger. I felt used, betrayed, and discarded. Keiji had taken what he wanted from me, then dismissed my feelings as mere infatuation. The thought of him returning to Yuko, the innocent girl who had unknowingly become a pawn in our twisted game, filled me with a burning resentment. I couldn't let him get away with it. I had to make him feel the pain I was feeling, the humiliation of being used and discarded. The video, a weapon I had never intended to use, now seemed like my only recourse. A triumphant smirk spread across my face as I reached for my phone. Think again, Keiji. I have something that might change your mind. Only if you break up with Yuko. And just so you know, I recorded us making love. I held up my phone, the video playing on the screen.
Delete it. Now.
I shook my head. No way. We wrestled for the phone, our frustration and desperation boiling over. In the chaos, the phone slipped from my hand. Before I could react, the clip had already been sent to Yuko. Panic surged through me. Keiji, I'm just threatening you. I don't mean to send it. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
It's too late. Yuko has probably seen everything by now.
The weight of my actions crashed down on me. Keiji and I stood there, our faces etched with stress and regret. The consequences of our actions loomed over us, and we were left wondering what to do next.
Chapter 9. Consequences and Confessions.
Will's call came late in the afternoon. His voice was cold and commanding.
Bring Keiji with you.
I arrived at Will's office with Keiji by my side, my heart pounding with dread. Will's stern face greeted us, and Yuko stood beside him, her eyes red from crying.
Explain what exactly is the truth.
He accused me of deceiving him and threatened to cancel the contract with my company immediately. It felt like the worst moment of my life. I was ruining everything.
It's all my fault, like Maya, and I was jealous.
He was lying to protect me. What had I done to deserve such loyalty? Will's face contorted with anger as he picked up a gun and pointed it straight at Keiji.
Yuko is devastated. Keiji must pay for this.
Panic surged through me. I couldn't let this go any further. Stop. It's not his fault, I blurted out. It's mine. I love him, and I was so jealous I did something stupid. If anyone is responsible, it should be me. Keiji looked at me with a mixture of surprise and relief.
No, it's not your fault, Maya. I like you too. I dated Yuko hoping to forget you, but I couldn't. I was willing in that clip.
I'll kill both of you.
Keiji hugged me tightly, and I clung to him, tears streaming down my face. This was probably our last embrace. I shouldn't have let things get this far. What had I done? Will pulled the trigger. The gun clicked but didn't fire. It was empty. He threw it aside in disgust.
Get out. Get out and never let me see your faces again. The contract is cancelled.
Smith punished me severely for losing such a vital client, but I didn't care. I deserved every bit of it. My reckless actions had led to this. Keiji brought me home in silence. As we stood at my door, I turned to him, my voice shaking with remorse. I'm so sorry, Keiji. He nodded, his eyes filled with sadness.
I love you, Maya, but I can't be with you. Not after everything that's happened.
Tears welled up in my eyes as I realized the full extent of my mistakes. I understand, I whispered. I'm not worthy of someone as good as you. Keiji gave me one last lingering look before turning and walking away. I watched him go, my heart breaking with each step he took. I had lost everything. My job, my reputation, and the man I loved. As I closed the door behind me, the silence of the house was deafening. I had been so consumed by my own desires and jealousy that I had destroyed the very thing I wanted most. The realization was a bitter pill to swallow, but it was one I had to accept.
Chapter 10. A Farewell and a Memory.
Several months had passed since the confrontation with Will. Keiji and I had become nothing more than silent observers of each other's lives, connected only by the occasional like on Instagram. I stopped seeking out new partners, finding no one who could fill the void Keiji left behind. My encounters were strictly professional, limited to VIP clients. It seemed unlikely that anyone would accept me as I was. If it wasn't Keiji, it would be no one. One day, a message from Keiji appeared on my phone. He was leaving for a new life abroad the next day. Shocked, I realized he hadn't thought to tell me until the last minute. But I knew why. Even so, I was glad he wanted to see me before he left. When Keiji walked into my house, it was like a rush of memories flooding back. I missed his face, his voice, everything about him. He immediately took off his shirt, revealing a physique that was even more impressive than before. Thicker, bigger, with almost no fat. He gave me a playful smile.
I remember the rules of this house.
I smiled back, unable to hide my admiration. You've gotten bigger.
It's not just my size that's changed.
With that, he took off his pants, revealing something even more impressive. I was taken aback but couldn't deny the excitement coursing through me.
We should do it before I fly.
I knelt and used my mouth to appreciate his size, marveling at how perfectly he filled me. I swallowed all his juice, savoring the taste. Keiji pulled me up for a kiss, and I melted into him, missing his touch, his lips, everything about him. Keiji lifted me gently, carrying me to the bedroom. As he laid me down on the bed, his hands moved with a tenderness that made my heart ache. He caressed my face, brushing away a stray lock of hair. His eyes, filled with longing and regret, met mine as he leaned in for a kiss. Our lips met softly, exploring each other with a gentleness that was both familiar and new. His kisses trailed down my neck, igniting a slow burn inside me. I arched my back, pressing myself closer to him. Keiji's hands roamed my body, tracing every curve with reverence. He undressed me slowly, as if savoring every moment, every inch of my skin he revealed. We moved together in a rhythm that felt both natural and deeply intimate. Keiji entered me with a slowness that took my breath away, filling me completely. Our bodies fit together perfectly, moving in sync with an unspoken understanding. We kissed constantly, our lips never straying far from each other, as if afraid to lose the connection. Keiji's touch was soft, his movements deliberate and loving. He whispered sweet words into my ear, telling me how much he had missed me, how much he still cared. Each word, each gentle thrust, felt like a balm to my wounded heart. We made love in every corner of the room, exploring each other's bodies with a tenderness that spoke of all the unspoken words between us. In the living room, he pressed me against the wall, his lips never leaving mine as he moved inside me. On the couch, he cradled me in his arms, our bodies entwined as we shared whispered confessions. In the kitchen, he lifted me onto the counter, our movements slow and sensual. Every kiss, every touch, was filled with the urgency of a farewell and the tenderness of a long-lost love. As the night wore on, we found ourselves back in the bedroom. Keiji's hands traced patterns on my skin, his lips following the trail they left behind. He kissed me deeply, his tongue exploring mine with a hunger that matched my own. We moved together, our bodies slick with sweat, our breaths mingling as we reached the peak of our pleasure. When I woke up the next morning, the space beside me was empty. Keiji had already flown away. I reached for my phone, only to find that he had blocked me on every platform. We were no longer friends. Tears streamed down my face as I realized the finality of it all. I deserve this, I whispered to myself. Keiji would forever be a part of my memories, a reminder of what I had lost and what could never be. As I lay in bed, I resolved to keep moving forward, to become someone better. Keiji's departure left a void, but it also gave me a chance to rebuild myself. He would always be a cherished memory, but now it was time to create new ones, to find my own path without him.